Hello, today I'm going to share with you about a great spring herb, which is very common. You probably have some growing near you, and it is now the end of March. And in my area, it is the perfect time to go out foraging for this herb. Well, what herb is it? It is violet. So I went out earlier today and found a patch of violets, and I have separated my blossoms from the leaves. Now, what is so special about violet? Well, violet is one of those herbs that helps you when you feel stuck. Now, you can feel stuck in all kinds of ways. Let's talk about if you have joint problems. Say you have arthritis and you find it hard to move. You're stuck, right? Well, violet has anti-inflammatory properties that can help with your arthritis. Maybe you have fibroids, or you have various lumps on your body that aren't real serious, but they're there. Well, that's usually caused by a stagnation in the lymph fluid in your body. Well, violet is a lymph mover. Now, you may not know much about the lymph system in your body. We don't talk about it that much, but lymph is the fluid that's basically between your cells, and it helps to remove toxins from your body. So it'll take the toxins from the cells and transport it through the body and through the lymph nodes, and all the toxins are cleaned out, and it's a lot of how you sweat things out. And lymph does not move by itself because we have blood vessels, right, that our blood system and the veins and the arteries and all of those things, they have pumps that help to keep the blood moving through our body. But lymph does not have that. Lymph is kind of squeezed by the movement in our muscles. So if we are too still, if we're sitting too much, or we don't get a lot of exercise, and for various other reasons, our lymph can get very stagnant in our body. But certain herbs can help move that around and helps to clean out the toxins. And violet is one of those wonderful herbs. If your emotions get stuck, right? If you have these persistent thoughts that you really don't want there, violet can help your thoughts. It can help your emotions, help clean out what's going on in your head. Well, another thing that violet does, and you know, I have to get back to that emotional thing, because violets, especially when you see them on the ground before you pick them, they're just so happy looking. I love violets. But they can also soothe inflamed and irritated tissues. So the leaves are really good for that. They have some demulcent properties. And if you're not sure what demulcent is, you can take a look at my other video on, I think, marshmallow. And I go into more detail about demulcent herbs in that video. But irritated skin, like a rash, or if you have an irritated lungs, that violet can soothe that. And there actually have been studies that say that violet syrup has helped with soothing the coughs of asthmatic pediatric patients. So even in children, they can benefit from a violet syrup if they're just dealing with coughing. And I personally have also found the violet syrup to be very helpful. One other very interesting thing that has to do with all of these is that if you have cancer in any way, violet can help the body to respond better to chemotherapy. Now, of course, this is something that you always need to talk with your doctor about. So I'm not saying anything about like use this instead of, seeing a doctor. No, no, no. But violet has such wonderful properties with moving the lymph, cleaning out toxins, and soothing irritation that it can be very helpful if you are going through chemotherapy. So a couple of other things is violet is edible. It's tasty. When you have the spring leaves like this, these are very small violet leaves and they're still tender. So you can eat these fresh. I plan to put a few of these in a salad later on, and they are tasty. They're a little bit more stiff, I guess, than lettuce you might get at the store. So it's a little bit chewier, but they're not super chewy. They're still tender and tasty. If you wait too long into the summer and the leaves get bigger, then they get tough and also a little bitter. So you want to get your leaves in the spring when they are still small. The flowers can be sprinkled on salad. So later on when I make my salad, I'm going to use a little bit of the violet leaves, but I'm also going to use some of the flowers to sprinkle on top. And again, they're just so fun and pretty. They can also be candied and put on cakes or pastries. If you are somebody who likes to put spinach in your smoothies, you might try violet leaves instead, and they can also be cooked up as greens as a side dish. So lots of different ways that you can use violet. But today I'm going to show you how to make a violet syrup. So first I'm going to take some of these flowers and put them aside for my salad later on. I have 2 cups of violet flowers in my measuring bowl here, and I have boiled 2 cups of water. So I'm just going to pour the water over the flowers, and I'm going to let this steep for a while, and I'm also going to just cover this with a plate, and that will keep the volatile oils in the infusion. So I am going to set this aside for a while and let it steep, and when it is done steeping, I'm going to come back and show you the next step. All right, well, welcome back. I let the violet petals steep overnight. You don't have to let them steep that long, but that's what worked in my schedule. So I'm going to strain them. And you might be able to see that the petals are pale now. Most of the color has gone down into the water. So I just have a strainer here, and I'm just going to press out some of the extra liquid in here. Okay. Now I have a very deep blue liquid, and now what I'm going to do here is add some lemon juice. At this point with this liquid, depending on the amount you have in your recipe, but you can use this liquid to make jelly. And if you do so, you need lemon juice to help the pectin set. I'm going to use lemon juice right now to show you what happens when you do use the lemon juice. I don't really need it for my recipe because I have honey, but here's my liquid, and when I add the lemon juice, this deep blue color is going to turn a vibrant pink. Well, I guess it's more purple this time. Sometimes it's more pink. This one is more purple, but this is really where we get that violet name. You know, this is beautiful. So when the acid hits the violet infusion, that's what happens. All right, so now how to make the syrup. So if you remember, I put about 2 cups of water over my flowers. So I have about 2 cups of liquid here, and I'm going to use a 1-to-1 ratio with my honey. So I measured out 2 cups of honey into this bowl. And when you're making the syrup, so you can use sugar instead of honey if you'd like, but then you'd have to boil it on the stove like a simple syrup, and you'd have to boil it until it's thicker. I'm just going to use honey now because it's easier, and also because the honey will add some more antiviral properties. The honey acts like a preservative. So does the sugar. If you boil it on the stove, the sugar does help to preserve the liquid, the same as if you're making jelly. The amount of sugar that you use, if you follow a simple syrup recipe, you can decide whether you want a light syrup, a medium syrup, or a heavy syrup. I would probably go medium myself. The more sugar you put in, the thicker the syrup. The more sugar, the better the preservation of the syrup. But you also have to think about what you're going to use it for. Now, just because the violet syrup has medicinal properties doesn't mean that you can only use it for medicinal properties, right? It will still be good in anything that you would like to use the syrup in. So if you want to pour it over pancakes or waffles, or if you want to make an exotic alcoholic drink that uses simple syrup, you can do that. So for today, I'm going to use a 1-to-1 with the infusion and the honey. Now, honey is very, very, very thick, and it's hard to stir. So I find that it's easier to add the liquid into the honey bit by bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a small ladle, and I'm just gonna stir this in a little bit till it's incorporated. And see, it takes a little bit because the honey is so thick. If I was putting the honey into the infusion, it would splash around more. So this is really the easier way to do it. And now that there's more liquid, it's getting easier to stir. Now it's pretty much fully liquid. The honey's not too thick, so I'll just pour the rest in here. Now this is still a pretty color of liquid, but if you do use sugar, you will probably keep the purple color more. So if that matters to you, use sugar. But if it doesn't matter to you, you can use the honey as well. All right, so I'm gonna show you how thick this syrup is right now just by pouring it out a little bit. Okay, so it's not too thick. So equal amounts of infusion and honey. And now I'm just going to put this into a quart jar that I have. So my funnel, I'm going to pour this in. Now, because I have the honey in here, it will be preserved. I used a 1-to-1 ratio because I'm probably not going to need this syrup until the fall. I don't tend to get sick in the summertime. I don't get sick very often for other reasons that I use like fire cider every day to keep my immune system up. But I'm assuming that I might have a cough in the fall. So I might not use this until then. So I want to make sure that it stays good, which is why I used a 1-to-1 ratio. However, in the meantime, I can still use this syrup for other things, even if I don't need it for a cough. And I will make another video to tell about what I use the leaves for, but I don't have time for that in this video. There you go, violet syrup. It's very, very easy to make. When you have your syrup made, you can also boil the syrup to a hard crack stage and use it to make cough drops. It's the same process as making hard candies. Now, I would not do that if you are using honey because the heat will destroy the medicinal properties of the honey. So if you wanted to make a syrup and then also make cough drops, I would use sugar. And again, you just cook it to a hard crack stage, the same process as making hard candies. So let me know if you have any questions. You can leave them in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and share it if you know somebody else who might find it helpful. And if you would like my PDF of 14 herbs musicians need now, you can go to the link that is in the show notes. And have a great day. Thanks for watching.